Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Planetarium show. My name is Jessica. I'm the director of the Planetarium, and with me tonight is one of our students who I'll let say hi and introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Braden, and I'm a music education student here at UMD.
Definitely becoming a new regular on the show. We love it. Um, I'm just
uh,
glad to have all of you back.
it is nice. It is very, very nice to be back.
All right. Well, since it is the beginning of October, which just for a sec, can we all agree that this year is going by very fast?
Yes. Oh my gosh,
I
yes.
don't understand. How is it October?
I don't even know. I don't want
I
to get
mean,
into it.
I'm happy. I love October. I love all things spooky and Halloween. The leaves changing
Oh, yes.
outside are gorgeous. The nice cool weather. I love it. I'm just
Yes.
wasn't expecting it so soon. That's all I'm saying.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
All right. But since it is the beginning of the month, we are doing our monthly What's Up show to talk about the astronomical events that you can look forward to this month, along with all of the other super fun things that come with October. Arguably the best month of the year, at least in my opinion. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, you get the cool weather, you get
Yeah.
the pretty colors, Halloween and
I was
scary
gonna say Halloween.
movies.
Halloween, like, it's perfect.
Right? And then, I mean, I have the added bonus of it's my wedding anniversary is in October, which
There you go.
we definitely didn't pick because it was our favorite month at all. Uh, it's a great month.
It really is.
All right. I've got screen all switched over, so let's get into what we can see up in the October sky. And as usual, we are going to start off with what the moon is doing. We started out this month with a first quarter a few days ago, back on October 2nd. So our next phase that we'll see will be the full moon on October 9th. The full moon in October is commonly known as the Hunter's Moon, but to the Anishinaabe here in the Great Lakes area, it's also known as the Falling Leaves Moon, which makes a lot of sense. Then, about a week after that, on the 17th, we'll have the third quarter, and then we will round out the month on the 25th with the new moon. You can see here those dates and when the moon will rise and set because it is up at different times of the day depending on which phase it's in. Some phases you could see in the day, some at night. Now, circling back to October 25th, when we have a new moon, that is prime time to have a solar eclipse. You can only have a solar eclipse during the new moon phase. And we are, in fact, going to have one on October 25th. But before you get too excited, let me go ahead and tell you we are not going to be able to see it. But we live in the age of the internet where everything is global, so I guarantee there will be streams of the solar eclipse that is going to happen at the end of the month. So a solar eclipse happens when the moon gets in between the Earth and the sun, and it blocks the sun for our view from our view. Essentially, what's happening is we have the shadow from the moon being cast on the Earth. Now, this particular solar eclipse is going to be a partial, meaning nowhere on the Earth is going to see the totality. No one's going to see a total solar eclipse. And that just means we're only falling into the moon's penumbral shadow. That's the kind of partial shadow. Um, so these are the lucky people on the Earth who are going to get to see that partial solar eclipse. This is where that penumbral shadow of the moon will fall. So we're looking at Europe, Russia, Middle East, little bit of the tip there of Africa. So this is where you'll be able to see it. But again, we live in the age of the internet. I'm sure there will be streams, and if we find a good, reliable one, we will make sure to share that so that you can watch this solar eclipse happen on the 25th. Now, hopefully, to kind of restore some excitement. Eclipses tend to occur in pairs. When you have a solar, you tend to have a lunar as well. So we will have a total lunar eclipse coming up in November, at the beginning of November, as the partner to the solar eclipse that we will be able to see from here in Duluth. But you're just going to have to come back to the November What's Up show to learn about the lunar eclipse. Little teaser there for next month. All right, let's take a look at what the planets are doing. We're going to start in the morning sky pre-dawn before the sun rises. Venus is still there, but it's getting pretty low on the horizon as it's getting closer and closer to the sun. So it probably can't really see it anymore. It's still there, but it would be difficult to make out. Venus is actually going to be making its way past the sun in the last half of the month on October 21st. And then by the end of this year, Venus will be back visible, but this time in the evening sky, as it's now on the other side of its orbit. Mercury hanging out great up in the sky. It's a great morning object to look for since it is pretty far from the sun. We're getting good distance there, so you'll be able to see faint little Mercury. The best time to try and see it is going to be in a couple days on October 8th. That is when Mercury reaches its greatest elongation. That just means it's at its furthest point from the sun, and that's why it makes it easier to find. So if you want to try and peek out Mercury there in the morning sky, try around October 8th. After that point, it's going to start moving back around, back towards the sun, and by the end of the month, it's going to be gone. So this is definitely a beginning of the month object to try and find. Now let's switch over to the nighttime sky. We have a whole lot to see. Right after sunset, you already have Saturn and Jupiter up in the sky, and then not too long later, you have Mars coming up as well. You can see here the moon's going to be hanging out with them for the kind of first half of the month. We also have Uranus and Neptune that you could try and find if you have a pair of binoculars or a telescope. Those two you can't see with your naked eye. You have to have something to help you out. So lots of fun planets to look at. Again, Jupiter and Saturn right at sunset, right when it gets dark, you've got those up in the sky, so if you don't want to stay up too late. But if you do want to stay up just a little bit longer, here we have at about 11 p.m. You've got Mars pretty high up in the east there already. So a great time to go out looking for these planets. They're going to be doing some cool stuff this month. Let me go check my notes here. Saturn is in the midst of its retrograde motion. That means, so typically the planets move eastward across the sky over the course of the night. Right now, Saturn is moving westward, and it's going to stop that on the 23rd and start going back the way it should be going. And then not long after that, on the 30th, Mars is going to start its retrograde motion. So what's going on there? Well, this retrograde motion that we see happens because we, being closer to the sun, move faster in our orbit than the planets that are further away. So every so often we catch up to and pass these planets. And while we're in the middle of catching up to and passing them, from our point of view, it looks like the planets start to go backwards. That's the retrograde. So they're not really moving backwards, it's just a optical illusion, I guess, from our vantage point. It's the same thing if you've ever paid attention, if you're in a car and you pass a car that's moving a little bit slower than you, while you're passing it, it looks like the car moves backwards, even though you know you both are moving forwards in the same direction. So Saturn, we just passed, we reached its closest approach to the Earth back in August. I'm going to be sad if I get that wrong. I think it was back in August. So we are now done past it, so it's starting to stop its retrograde. And then Mars, we will reach its closest approach in December, I believe. So we're starting this process of catching up and passing it. So that's why it's starting its retrograde motion. All right. Well, I think that's all I have to say about the planets. So let's move on to some other things we can see. This month we do have a meteor shower, which is super exciting. Meteor showers happen whenever Earth passes through debris. There's lots and lots of debris just strewn all through our solar system, lots of small little grains of dust and sand. A lot of this is concentrated in paths that are actually the paths that comets take around the sun. When they get close to the sun and those ices that make up the bulk of the comet start to get hot and vaporize, not only do the gases leave, but it also takes with them some tiny little bits of rocks and sand and things like that. And that all gets kind of left behind along the orbit as the comet moves around. So whenever Earth passes through that trail, you get lots of little bits falling through our atmosphere and they heat up and glow. And that's what we call our meteors or shooting stars. And when we're passing through that dense comet trail, you get a lot of this happening, and that's when you get your meteor shower. So the meteor shower that I'm going to talk about tonight is the Orionids. You can see here that there are a few others happening. These are all very minor meteor showers. We're talking a couple of meteors an hour. So not anything major. I mean, it still means you could go out just about any night and see a couple meteors. But we're going to have a decent show of the Orionids. So this is caused by debris left behind by Comet Halley. The Orionids run from September 26th to November 22nd, but the peak this year is happening on October 21st. It's actually going to happen while we are in the middle of daytime, so we're actually not going to get to experience the full peak. But if you can get outside anytime dark on the 21st, so whether that be the early morning of the 21st or after sunset on the 21st, you'll get just on either side of that peak and you'll still get a pretty good show. This is what we would call a moderate meteor shower, looking at about 20 meteors per hour, which is pretty good. So since we will see it kind of outside that peak, we won't have quite those numbers, but there still will be a decent amount to look at. And especially if you're able to get out in the early morning before the moon rises. Sorry, brain stop there for a second. If you're able to get out before the moon rises, then you'll have some really good dark skies. So these are named the Orionids because the meteors look like they're coming from the region of sky of the Orion constellation. You can see Mars is hanging out around there too. So what you're going to want to do is actually look either north or south so that you can see the trail of the meteors as they fly through the atmosphere. Another cool thing that we can see this month, and I mentioned this last month as well, is the zodiacal light. So I already said that our solar system is full of all of this little grains of sand and tiny little rocks, and the sun's light scatters off of that. Normally, this is very dim. It sits really close to the horizon, so it kind of gets outshone by the sun's light itself as the sun is either rising or setting. But twice a year, in the spring and in the fall, there's a period of time where it can be a lot easier to see it. And that happens because during the spring and fall, the plane of our solar system, which is where all of this stuff is, makes a very steep angle with our horizon. That puts that glow a lot higher up, making it easier to see. So if you want to try and see the zodiacal light, you're going to want to go out sometime between the 23rd up until about November 8th. So that's when we're past the full moon. So you'll have some good dark skies there right before dawn. Yeah, we want it right before dawn. And just kind of be on the lookout for this really faint glow. It's almost like a triangle glow shooting up out of the east. Just be careful not to confuse it with the Milky Way galaxy, which you'll also be able to see. This is something that's hard to see. You do need some really dark skies to try and do it. If you have a camera that you can set an exposure and take like a couple second exposure, that could help you see it as well. But if you're interested, that's something else that you can go out and try and see this month. All right, I think I have one more thing to talk about as far as objects to see, and that is the International Space Station. It's always really fun to try and spot satellites in the space station as they're flying over you in their orbit around the Earth. A great place to kind of look up if you're going to be able to see any satellites, or specifically the International Space Station, is this site here, heavens-above.com. You just put in your location and it'll have a huge list of objects to choose from. You can click ISS and it'll tell you for your location, this is when you'll be able to see it. For us here in Duluth, we're really looking at the second half of the month. There is an opportunity tonight if you want to go out. But we're going to get a lot of opportunities at the end of the month. And so just a little bit of advice on how to read this chart that heavens-above.com gives you. And you, of course, have your date and the time when it's going to happen. All of these for the end of the month are going to be early morning. And then you have the brightness, which is given in magnitudes, which is kind of a backward scale. So the smaller the number, the brighter it's going to look. So picking a very small number, a very small number means you're going to have a really bright view of the ISS, which always just makes it a little bit easier to see, in my opinion. Then if you have one particular date and time that you're interested in, you can click on that little blue date and it'll take you to another page which shows you a map of the night sky and the path that the ISS will take with time stamped on it, so that you can know exactly where and when to look to try and find it. As I said, this website also has things other than just the ISS. You can find other satellites as well. It's a really cool resource. I have it linked in the video description, so I would go check that out. All right, well, that is all of our astronomical events. So let's talk about what the planetarium is going to be doing for this week and this month. Friday, our show is Adventure to the Edge of the Universe, which is one of my personal favorites. We see as much of the universe as we can in about 30 minutes. There's a lot to see, so this show does change pretty regularly, depending on what we want to talk about that night. And then on Saturday, we have our new movies for October. We have Sunstruck at 2 and Unveiling the Invisible Universe at 7. And I'll show you trailers for those right now, actually. So here is Sunstruck, which is our family show for the month of October.
The Sun. It's one star among 300 billion in our galaxy. It's not even close to the center of the Milky Way. It's not the biggest star, not the smallest, the brightest, the hottest, or the coolest. It's not even the only star with planets. Class G yellow stars like the Sun make up 1 out of 13 stars in our stellar neighborhood. It's not special in any way, except one. It's the only star we know of that supports life. The Sun is our star. Without it, Earth would be cold and dark. There would be no weather, no life. In fact, there would be no Earth. From the dawn of life and through most of human history, the sun was a benevolent giver of light, heat, and energy. But now, as we rely more and more on technology, we're learning that our star is more dangerous than our ancestors ever knew.
All right. And that is Sunstruck. Again, that is our family show at 2 p.m. on Saturdays this month. And at 7 p.m., our general public show is a brand new one that we just opened, which is Unveiling the Invisible Universe.
Science has managed to observe the universe at enormous distances of up to almost 13 billion light years. The decoding of the hidden messages that the light of stars carry, as well as the torrents of exotic particles and space itself, reveal to us the universe in all its grandeur. Humans, although bound on the surface of a small planet called Earth, have the ability with science to glimpse the limits of the visible and invisible universe.
All right, I'll stop that one there. So some really fun shows for October. As far as our Wednesday live streams, since it is October, we are officially in Spooktober season. Yes, I'm taking full advantage of all of these awesome Halloween vibes. So we've got some really fun shows coming up this month. Some of our favorites from the past years that we have streamed these shows. So next week we're going to have Spooky Star Stories to Tell in the Dark. After that is The Magical World of Astronomy, which is a fun Harry Potter show. And then on the 26th, we have Monsters in the Sky, which takes a look at some of the monster-esque type objects in our galaxy or universe. I don't want to give too much away. It's not scary. It's a really fun show. So you can look forward to those every Wednesday this month. And then finally, we're going to round out the month with our annual Halloween event. This year, it is taking place on Saturday, October 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. We are back to doing it in person after having it as a drive-through event for the past 2 years. It's going to be so much fun. It's a free event for ghosts and ghouls of all ages. We're going to have planetarium shows, demos, activities, of course, lots of candy. It's going to be a great time. So mark your calendar and come out and join us for that. I think I have reached the end of everything I have to say. Brayden, did we get any questions?
Questions? No. We just got a couple of comments, which is hello from Tennessee, and Eastward Motion is prograde.
Prograde.
Motion.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I pronounced it wrong. My bad.
All right. Well, let's give a couple more minutes for any last or any questions that may have come up to come in. Did you get to see any of the new shows last weekend? I can't remember if you worked.
I did, but I think I was out doing tickets the whole time.
Okay.
So I was just yeah.
I was curious if you'd seen the Unveiling the Invisible Universe one yet.
I caught a little bit of it. It was pretty cool.
I like it. It's the same person that did From Earth to the Universe.
Oh, okay, sure.
Which is my favorite show, and I realized that we haven't shown that one since we reopened. So I think that might be November.
I think
because it's a fabulous show, and it just looks, especially with the upgrade to the computers, so we can see like better resolution than we showed it in the past. It's stunning. So yeah, same guy, same director who made that one. So I was very excited to see it, and yeah, it's a good one.
forgot.
I feel like I had something I was going to ask you, and now I can't remember. I don't remember. It was probably something cheesy, like what's your favorite thing in October?
But I like horror movies. That's
Absolutely.
it. That's it. Probably. And
We've
Halloween. And
yeah,
Halloween. I'm a
we've
big Halloween person.
we've got our list that we watch every October. We've started on it. We started a little light, so we did the Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz at World's End.
I have
Um,
not seen At World's End. That's the one of the Cornetto trilogy I never got around to. I love Hot Fuzz though, and Shaun of the Dead is perfect. Hot
yes,
Fuzz is my favorite so far though, because
that is also Sage's favorite.
it's just so good. It's so funny. It's like
It's very good.
it's an excellent parody of the
I
cop
think
movies.
I think Shaun of the Dead is my favorite, but they're both.
We did
I
another
like
comment.
I like At World's End. It's just the weakest of the three, I would say.
That's it's Aliens, right?
Yeah,
That's the one that they're spoofing. Yeah.
yeah.
Got a comment. Young Frankenstein every year, which is great. I do love some Mel Brooks,
I
so
have not seen that one.
it's so good. It's so funny.
I might have to add it. So every year, like we add in like movies that we haven't seen yet. So I might have to add that one in.
It has it has Gene Wilder in it,
I mean, love him.
so you know it's gonna be great.
That
It's
pretty much
also
convinced me.
it's also written and directed by Mel Brooks, so
Yeah.
you can't beat it. It's great. It's really funny.
All right.
It's like
I am convinced. I will put it on our list for this year. It'll be good.
and it's funny because in the movie there's this really funny joke where like people will like call him like Frankenstein, but he's like, no, it's Frankenstein. And it's like the dumbest bit, but it just works. So
All right.
yeah.
I will add it. Maybe I'll try and watch it before next week's show, and I can let everyone know what I thought.
Yeah, I recommend.
All right. Well, I think we will wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed getting a look at some of the cool things coming up this month. Again, join us every Wednesday this month for some fun, spooky themed shows. And if you're in the Duluth area, come hang out with us on the 29th for a Halloween event. It's always a great time.
Highly
Um,
recommend.
yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be your first one actually in person.
Yeah, I like we did like the drive up last
Yeah,
year, but
so getting the full experience this time, the
yeah,
full
I'm excited.
chaos.
I'm really excited. It'll be really fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your evening and week, and we hope to see you next time. Bye.
Bye.